I'm gonna wait 2 minutes for a minute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone on the Zoom? I see Delene. Any public? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, so public input going on. Correspondence, we have a letter from the town attorney. I'll just say that this is not surprising to me because when I interacted with him about the subject of Arpa funds, I said this is not a legal issue for me. It's, you know, just to get more clarification. So, you know, that'll come out on the agenda when we discuss that, the ARPA funds, but I was aware of everything he's saying here. We do not have, it, but he did put that in correspondence. All right, we're going to approve some minutes now.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the meetings all together, March 24th of 2022, April 18th of 2022, and May 4th of 2022.
Okay, before we proceed, what do you think? What do you
You
think?
really can't do it that
Yeah, you
way,
gotta do one at a
unless,
time.
I mean, you have to go through in case like somebody was absent, you know,
Right.
then they have to abstain. It's just easier to
Very
just.
good, so I'll pull back my motion. My first motion is to accept the minutes of March 24th, 2022.
I would second that.
Okay.
I will tell you, Bob Manfreda had a couple changes that he wanted to make on page 3 at the bottom. John Lennon I shouldn't have John Lennon's name there because I have that you voted yes and no, so I'll remove that. And then instead of having Doug, Dan Carter, I put Doug Cooney because Doug
Like
Cooney is
autofill?
DC in my autocorrect, and I do that sometimes, so I'll fix those.
Okay, so motion to approve the minutes as amended.
You'll amend your motion with those two
Yeah,
corrections.
sorry, yeah.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay.
I make a motion, we accept April 18th special meeting.
Second,
I'll second it.
okay. Discussion.
Bobby's my proofreader. Bobby's all.
You're good to go. You're good to go then.
Okay, I kind of feel silly. All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion,
I make a motion that we accept May 4th special meeting as written.
is there a second?
Second.
May 4th, Nick, or March 24th?
No, May
We
4th.
already did that, May 4th.
That was last week.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Special
I'm
meeting.
looking at the agenda right here, I'm sorry. Yep, got it right here.
Feel like we have problem about that.
Is there a motion?
I made the motion
And
and Bob
is there a
seconded
second?
it.
I did.
Yep.
Any discussion? No, okay,
We're all good.
all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed?
I abstain, just because I wasn't there.
Very good, thanks. I want to make a verbal addition to the agenda to approve the public hearing minutes from the 21st of March because they weren't ever approved.
So you have to make a motion to do that and then get a second.
That's what I said. I'd like
Okay.
to make a motion to approve or add, no, I'm sorry, you're right. I want to add to the agenda And I would like to make a motion to approve the public hearing.
No,
minute.
it's two
Make the
separate.
motion to
You
add.
have to make a motion to add it to the agenda, and then you have to make a motion to.
Got
approve.
it.
I would second your motion to add
Okay, all in favor of adding that to the agenda, signify by saying aye.
it.
Aye. Now,
Now I'll make a motion that we accept March 21st special public hearing meeting minutes. Is that correct?
second? There's a
I'll
second,
second it.
okay.
Think about it. It's probably the only thing we agreed on so far.
So it's basically the correspondence which, and then the people who spoke and the attended, so if that's all in order. Any discussion?
Have we ever done that before?
Yeah. We'll always do the public hearing.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Chair, quick question.
Yes.
On the minutes. I seem to remember that the meeting prior, the vote prior to the public hearing, we didn't approve one of those minutes in there somewhere.
It was the March
it was the
24th.
It was
24th,
24th?
and
Thank you.
may I just add, the reason why I just put them
Yeah.
through is because the particular issue is now another issue because a complaint was filed, so that, we move on.
Okay.
That
That was unbelievable.
was
information is not
Sure,
going to be included.
thanks.
Okay,
That's why the dates are right, so crazy.
For some reason, I thought it was wrong.
yeah, it was the 24th.
Cool.
Okay, so the next agenda item is consideration of the Board of Finance requiring capital plans, and it's good that it's in quotes, from fire and police commissions. This doesn't have to be a big discussion, but, and I was talking to Brad about this. It seems like, and this is the last, a couple meetings ago, and then this meeting, that these amounts of like 10,000, 15,000, and these items just keep coming up. And, I guess some departments have, like when they decommission vehicles and they have a list and they have projections. And I just thought it would be good to discuss. So I'd like to make a motion to discuss this.
I would second it.
Okay,
I'll vote on it.
Brad?
Yes.
Sorry.
Is it called on that motion for discussion?
Oh, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I thought-
Yeah,
Yes,
so we had talked about this, Cynthia, and one of the things that I think the fire commission has been great for the town, and I think it's done a great job working with both firehouses. What you and I discussed is we would like to see the fire commission put together a full plan of all the capital needs for both firehouses. So that we can see, instead of doing 3 items tonight, 3 items a month ago, 3 items, it'd be great if we made a formal request and it'd have to go Board of Finance to Board of Selectmen to the Fire Commission, that they put together the formal list of all their capital stuff that they know of. Like it's a living, breathing document.
right.
We know things change from the bottles that the fire departments need all the way up to apparatus. And let's put together that full schedule so that the Board of Finance has it, so that when we're looking at whether it's CNR or long-term capital stuff, and they have, both fire departments did supply their 10-year capital plan as part of the budget. But now that we have the fire commission and they seem like they're way more up and running, I know it's a newer board. I think it's time that they put together this full list. And I think it'd be really helpful for me as the comptroller and for the Board of Finance and even the Board of Selectmen to kind of see what is out there. Like we know some of this stuff, like tire replacement is recommended, I think, every 7 years by the NF, whatever it is, the National Fire Protection, whatever that is. So I think it'd be really helpful if the fire departments and the fire commission worked on that. So that could be presented to the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen, not even during the budget. Let's look at it now. So if we have questions, we can ask them now before we get overwhelmed by the budget process.
Right, and that way, if you have the whole list, then there could be another conversation about prioritizing, because that'll shift maybe during the process. But at least we'll have a list of these, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just want to let you know, we do have Fred here, Fred Ingram from the Fire Commission. I wish that I would have known that this was, all this was about. At the last meeting, and Fred wants to talk about it, the plan is for the Fire Commission to put together the exact request that you were saying and present it in October. So it's done.
Okay,
If I could just add briefly, I mean, the fire commission is new. I mean, we're.
yes, I know.
We're kind of playing catch up right now, and we discussed with both fire departments putting together an apparatus replacement plan. And that's one of our main goals going forward, is just strictly an apparatus replacement plan. And right now, we do have a 10-year plan from both departments, but we've discussed with both chiefs, and we did. First, I'm not speaking for the whole commission, because we haven't discussed it formally yet, but we've had some brief talk about it. We think 10 years is too much. We'd really like to bring it back down to 5 years. Just, I mean,
That's
because,
fine, it's just, you know.
I mean, the chiefs don't, I mean, a chief doesn't last 10 years in the volunteer service. I mean, it's very rare to see a fire chief make, a 10-year run. And it's technology changes, the needs change, the town changes, so a 10-year plan is not really realistic in the commission's mind, and I don't think it is in the chief's mind either. But 5 years would be more appropriate, and it is something that the fire commission is working on.
Okay.
The first thing we're gonna put together is an apparatus replacement plan. And I think we've got the majority of the capital requests from both departments right now. I know the Belleville Fire Department's kind of playing catch up. And
Okay,
I think John's pretty, with the items he's got on the agenda tonight, I think John's gonna be pretty caught up on his capital
Brad,
for this year.
sorry, Brad.
Yeah, so that sounds great, Fred, and I'm glad that's on the agenda. Some of the items, I agree with you, should be like 5 years. If the tires need to be replaced every 7, we might as well put that out there. That's known quantities. Apparatus should be lifespan. So I agree. I know normally under the GFOA, they want a 10-year capital plan for what the fire commission is looking to do. It should be based on lifespan stuff. 5 years is great. Apparatus wise, 5 year doesn't really tell us much. We should have a pretty good idea how long a pumper is going to last. And look, if you get more or less out of it, it happens. But
We're gonna get you a 30-year plan on the apparatus.
yeah, exactly. So
Fred, apparatus, that means air bottles and, those are kind of usable stuff, but the lifespan on it. So that will be on your list in October?
Well, speaking of apparatus, we're talking about trucks.
Just trucks, okay,
Just trucks.
apparatus.
But I mean, yeah, going forward, we're gonna know on the bottles and stuff, they got was it a 12-year replacement? 15-year replacement. So, and John's broken his up into stages where he's replacing a portion of them, this year and a portion next year. And then Chief McCollum's doing the same thing. So it's not a big hit all at the same time where we're replacing 100 bottles at the same time.
And I like what you guys did, give them their operating budget, but then when they need something, I think it should be dealt in a capital thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a list of capital, Bob would tell you, there's a list of stuff all over the town, and it seems like we're just dropping stuff in, not big dollar stuff, you know what I mean? But
Exactly.
it just,
Yeah,
if
and
we
I
have a
know
better
we took
idea.
a big hit with the radios. That was a
Yeah,
big
it was
thing.
400 grand, right, exactly.
Right, but this way, we have a projected view, and then we don't feel like, oh, here's another 15, here's another 3. It's just easier for us to deal with it in
We're
a
gonna
big
have a plan
picture.
going forward, and I don't think you're gonna have any more surprise requests.
Okay.
You know,
Can you sign this for me? or not?
Yeah.
I said, I don't think.
Okay,
Well, I think it's important because as a new guy, I keep hearing about this non-recurring fund. I know we fund it with 600,000. I would love to know what the average is that we spend every year, because every time we make a motion to spend 20, I'm in my head thinking we're gonna run out by next July for the entire town. And then, with having a plan, then we know what we're against. So we don't think next June we're gonna be out of money. That's where I'm thinking.
Mr. Manfreda, do you have any ideas of how much we've spent in the past few years?
Pre-COVID, we would spend pretty much, I think, everything that was in that account.
And then it stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really pulled in.
And how, this non-recurring, how many years have this been part of the Board of Finance?
It's been
5?
as long as I've been on
Great.
it, I think before that, so 7 to 10.
yes,
Right.
Okay,
sorry. So CNR goes back. I've been with the town 11 years, and it predates that by a number of years. It used to only be 225,000, so it went really quick. Obviously, between the 600,000 plus the last couple of years, we've been able to dump an additional like 400,000 a year in excess revenue or excess where we had room and expenses. So it's grown a lot. And to answer your question of how much we spend every year, it totally varies because during the height of COVID, the Board of Finance didn't spend any of it because we didn't know what was going to happen. And then in 2021, the Board of Finance approved 1.3 million. So, you know,
It's not
it
okay
comes
to
in
take
waves.
that.
Yeah.
It's really not an average.
Gotcha.
Just to give you a little more history on it, John, is when it was 225,000, what we used to do is wait till like April, May, June, unless there's an emergency, and then spend it. Because it was kind of set up as you need a new boiler for 60,000 for the municipal center. This is where you go and get it from. So you deal with emergencies throughout the year, and at the end of the year, you'd empty it with the request that you knew you had. But at that time, we were doing more stuff through the capital plan during the budget. So as we've gotten away from doing some of that short-term debt, we grew the CNR account so that we didn't have to go do a $180,000 plow truck as part of the budget process. You can do it at a CNR.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I'm just afraid at the end of the year, we're out of money.
No, you'll
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully things will start to normalize, whatever.
That's a good point. We would look forward to see that, Fred, in October. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll make sure we put it back on the agenda and look at it.
That's our
formally.
goal to get an apparatus replacement plan to you and the Board of Selectmen by October.
And the report that says
It's a
trucks
lofty
will
goal.
work 50 years or something.
Okay, so that was just a discussion. We don't really have
Madam
to
Chair?
take any. Yeah, yes, sir.
I just had one comment. I think this is a great idea. Right? This tends to be the lumpiest, biggest items. So the better we can plan for it, the better. I just didn't want to get this all bogged down in process, because I think the charter already provides the requirement for this to happen. I don't think we need any further.
We don't have to vote anything. I agree with you.
Well,
It's
if
in
we
there.
look at section C-10-5 of the
Right.
charter, it says that every agency and board of the town shall submit to the Board of Selectmen an outline of capital and non-recurring expenditures that the agency desires to make during the ensuing 5 years. So I just think we can do it. There's no need to bog it down. in
Oh, no, we're not.
bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's really a reminder, because Brad and I were talking about it. It's not just the fire department and the police department. There are other departments that we could benefit by seeing that.
Absolutely. I heard Brad, I thought, maybe I misheard, sorry, Brad, if I did, but that it had to go from like us to the board of, to
Yeah.
approve this, had to go from us to the. Board
Oh,
of
right,
Selectmen.
the system's already in place.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was only if you were going to make a formal request. If you're just fine with having a discussion and you're happy with what Fred said, you don't need a formal request. If the Board of Finance was going to make a formal request, it would have to go to the Board of Selectmen for the Board of Selectmen to request it from the commissions.
I think the point is that in the charter C-10-5, that
Yeah.
to revitalize that and find departments that is part of the deal, right? And Brad, you
When-
might,
When's the last time we've gotten something along those lines? Does anybody know?
well, the police department has a vehicle line, right?
Yeah, so it's all provided as part of the budget. Everybody supplies their capital plan, and then it is supplied to the Board of Finance. We just don't do a lot with it now because we've been funding everything through CNR. So it's not a big focus of the budget process anymore. But every department does supply their capital plan. So we are good with the charter with the 5 years that they supply. We were just talking about, because it's a new fire commission, Cynthia and I,
Right.
that it would be good to get. We didn't know they had that ball rolling already. If they didn't, we wanted that ball rolling because we figured it should come from the fire commission, not from the houses anymore.
Okay, very good. All right, let's move on. So now we're gonna talk about.
I make a motion.
Said.
That said.
Wait a
Would you
minute.
like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the $15,672 for 12 new bottles for Stony Hill Fire Department, not to exceed $15,672
And your motion is from the non-recurring, right?
from then recurring. Yes, thank
I'll
you.
second that motion.
Okay, discussion.
Again, I think this is the best value in town for what they provide. You guys provide a great service and I appreciate it. To have a paid department, you still gotta have bottles. You can't have expired equipment. I think this is a no-brainer. Thank you.
Okay.
Quick
Yes.
question. So this is half, you're going to do another 12 next year?
We did 12 last
Oh,
year.
last year, perfect. Thank you.
We had 21 bottles go out of service last year, so that's what I did, I broke it up. And I'm doing it in 12 bottle increments because that is the complement of one vehicle, because there's 6 seats. So the package stuff would have 6 and then a spare for each seat.
And are we getting both departments to have the same bottles yet, or we're not?
They do
that
have the
far
same
yet?
bottles, but they're on different age
Cycles?
cycles.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if,
We don't want too many going out at the same time, so that really
right,
isn't.
well, I mean, in the two
Consideration.
departments, I mean, like, don't you get better prices if you buy more stuff?
We're already on a New York State bid through the same vendor.
Okay.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, look. no, but-
It was my phone and I did
Yeah.
not check my text, just it's
Pay no
face down.
attention
Madam
to
Chair,
the
And I didn't text
constant dinging.
Chief, did I hear correctly in the beginning of your testimony tonight? The bottles last 15 years?
Correct.
Great.
Any more discussion?
I'm just a quick
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry, Kate, I should, my peripheral vision, they
Sorry.
fixed it. but
I think we know this, but just in case anyone's listening in, right? I'm assuming, Chief, you presented this to the fire commission and Fred, you guys looked at it and said, yep, it fits the plan.
Yes,
So-
yeah, we recommended this.
And the selectmen also
And
sent
they
it.
approved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So that whole process,
Yeah, you wouldn't see
It
if you
has
didn't get it,
taken
right?
place.
again, just in case somebody was watching, take.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Oh, thank you. Delayed reaction. Okay, next.
Someone wants to do this one, or?
I'd like to make a motion that we purchase replacement tires for, is that Rescue 2? Is that what that stands for? In the amount of $37,2142 and take that from the non-recurring.
Second,
Discussion?
Again, these tires have just expired.
Right, again, it's like the air bottles, every 7 years, they mandate that they be.
Will they fit on my motorhome or no?
How many tires is that?
do they have any value that? like,
Some guys
sell
will
or
run
something
them.
with it?
Some guys will run.
I asked the highway department and they said that the money isn't in the tires, it's in the labor of taking them off and remounting them. They said that they weren't interested.
How many tires do you get for $3,700?
That particular truck, it has 6 tires.
Excuse me? Order in the
Got
car.
it.
I'm sorry.
6.
6 tires.
6.
It's crazy.
That's a little crazy. And are you on a state bid for that too, or do you buy them?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Any more questions or
Madam Chair,
comments?
We should,
Yes,
we should let the minutes say that John basically said there's a stamp inside the tire. That's why they can't be used.
It's a dated tire.
The dated
It's a
tire.
dated tire.
Yep.
okay, so that's good. So we'll say that out to the crowd
I
so
did.
that it's all very good, very good. I appreciate
Great
that.
information, guys. Good work.
Yeah. good
For the
work,
record.
Good sidebar there.
No,
Oh,
okay.
don't be high fiving.
Is that in the rules too?
Yeah, we're
Call
gonna,
for a vote on this one, please.
oh, yes, okay, Nick.
Shut these
Yeah,
doors. No
yes, Nick, I'll do
touching.
that right away. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed. Would you like to make a motion?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion that we fund, and again, what department is this for? What is this consideration?
Just the max,
Fire.
it's gonna be one each.
One for each department.
Okay, okay. Again, for the 4770 to come out of CNR for the Scott site mass program.
I'll second that motion.
So
Ian, you got that,
As long
right?
as she cleans it up a little bit, I will second it.
what is the pilot program?
So initially, we had asked for the mask and camera combinations for each of the officers of each department. And because they hadn't been utilized in the past, they haven't been tested in the past, so they said, instead of spending all of that money for all the officers of both departments, let's get one for each department to test, to see if there's any pros and cons, and if it's worth spending that exorbitant amount of money Prior to that, we'll just try it.
That's a good plan.
So this is for one each. So
That's for one.
potentially, if you like it, how many are we talking about for each department?
Just the office.
We were just saying the officers, so we were talking, I don't know how many Scott had asked for, so we're talking probably close to 15 masks.
John, it was a total of 9.
It was over 9.
It was like 37,000 for the initial total request.
I'm trying to ask a couple questions. So what is what's the price difference between the handheld? I mean, does the department have the handheld?
We do have the handheld. I mean, the difference between the two is the mask mounted one obviously keeps your hands free.
Right.
Because most of the time when you're gonna be using it, you're gonna be in an environment where you can't stand up, you can't be kneeling, you're gonna be falling on your hands, and so your hands are going to be utilized for movement. You sometimes have other tools, whether it's forcible entry tools or the hose line itself. So to be able to have that vision in a smoke-filled environment without having to use your hands, you can look at a camera right inside of your mask. That's very helpful.
When you go to a building, do you guys split it up, like you have a hose crew and then there's somebody who's going to do the rescue, or?
Correct. Yep. You could have a fire attack crew. You could have a search and rescue crew.
Right.
What they call a vent crew, which could be opening up windows or the roof to let out the heat and smoke to help protect the firefighters inside. We're getting more involved in setting up what we call a rapid intervention team, a crew just outside that's there to go in if a firefighter has a emergency in the building to rescue them. So there's a lot of tasks that are assigned for crews.
So I guess the question is, would everybody need one?
On every, no, you would need one person on usually the search team, because that's going to be their goal, is to find people.
Okay.
There were other items that were brought up that could be utilized for safety. But I thought for now, this was the best to go forward with, because it could help find victims. It could find other firefighters fairly quickly, as far as that being instantaneous information right inside of your mask.
Sure. Thank you very much.
And Chief, just give me up to speed. This is a heat sensor. It's like a big
It's
screen.
a thermal imaging camera that will give you differences in temperature to the thousandth of a degree. So you'll get a picture based on the temperature setting. It's going to be almost a black and white picture, but they also have colors of white and red that will actually give you like shadows or images of.
You can see a
objects.
body's laying there type
Right.
of thing or something.
Yep, and they'll tell you the temperature of the room directly where that camera is viewing.
How's the mask different? I mean, obviously besides being hands-free than the handheld thermal, is the technology in
The technology is basically the same, so that's why it's.
So
it's
you
not-
already have the technology.
Correct.
So the addition of the mask is to
The,
make it
um,
hands-free.
The other difference that this has, which our current handhelds doesn't have, is it actually records the images that you can download and view for either training or whatever investigative purposes that you feel necessary.
And how old are your current thermal handhelds?
The current ones are almost 10 years old.
And what is the typical lifespan on the thermal, on the handhelds?
That's hard to say with the amount of fires that you get. I mean, we have some that are probably 15, closer to 20 years old, but that's old technology too. So it's not as good clear pictures. It's black and white. It doesn't have as tight a difference in temperature to give you a clearer picture.
Is this a pilot program just for Bethel, or is this like pilot technology, like, or are these masks, I'm assuming this isn't a pilot program for these masks, just.
No, not for the mask. It's just for
Bethel.
us to see.
It's like
if
a
this is
trial
something that
period.
we-
It's, you're
Right.
calling it a pilot program.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like it's sponsored by the mask
But
company.
we
I know
own
what you're
the
asking.
two pieces,
I
right?
No, I know what you're
I'm
asking.
sorry?
The 4,700, we own one each for each department, right?
No, that's what the goal is, to purchase one for each department.
It's a pilot program for the town. of
Right,
Bethel to
you'll
see
be
if
able to
it's
decide.
technology that we want to go forward with for both departments.
So we're gonna have one for each department and we own it, right?
We
Yeah.
own.
And then do we buy more? Do we like it? Or
That's the
Right,
decision
yes.
that
Do we
one
want
would
to buy
make.
more or say, no, it wasn't something for us, and we're just gonna have the one for each.
Gotcha.
Yep. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Okay, this last thing,
Good luck, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion of ARPA funds. I'll make the motion to just discuss this, the ARPA funds approval process. You second that?
I'll second.
We don't have to vote on the motion. We can
Yeah.
just carry.
Right.
So this is not a legal issue. If this is similar to the organizational chart, where I'm told by the town attorney and the first selectman that why bother talking about it? But I just think it merits discussion because it's about the ARPA process. We are receiving upwards of $5.8 million. And on the town side, yeah. Mhm. Well, the education side, they've already, they've already done that, what planned theirs. But we have a capital plan that is included in this. It's a plan, it's a list of things that are currently on. And we don't have to drag this out. I just think that it's interesting that there are towns, and I looked up towns that do it differently. And I was surprised to hear, yeah, here we go. It's after the fire department's request. I was surprised when Brad said who comprised the committee. They're all department heads. There's not anybody that's representing the taxpayer in any way. My thought is that there should be at least a member of the Board of Finance. We don't have any decision-making authority, but that's not even my problem. It's just, I think that it seems a little bit isolated. They don't have minutes. I looked up Reading. Reading has a dedicated ARPA page. It says, it has a whole list of who's on the committee. They have, what's happening? Minutes, oh, they're rolling the cleaning stuff. They have minutes, they have an agenda. Ridgefield presents their ARPA projects to their Board of Finance. There's everyone, the Treasury sent out guidelines, and that's what they call it, guidelines. So there is no process. But for me, it's an issue of transparency and representation. So I just thought we could talk about it, see how you feel about it, and looking at the plan.
You know, I paid attention to this a lot. We've talked to Brad about this. You know, I listen to WLAD all the time, and every town talks about either there's an advisory question or there's input somehow that the whole town's involved to get an idea. And it, you know, I get it. They're not, this committee and the selectmen are not doing anything per the charter wrong, but I just don't think it's out in the open enough. I would support a fire truck over a splash park, and I think the splash park's here. I don't have my glasses on, but you know, there's no one saying it. You know, when we asked this question with Brad was very forthcoming with the information, but it seemed like it was a smoke-filled room, and you know, we said, well, what about the radios? We approved 400,000 for radios, and we thought that we should use the COVID money, ARPA money, whatever you want to call it. It would be a great use for that. You know what I mean? To pay. You know, I get it. They're doing the showers in the locker room here. They're doing some upgrade with some data cabling. You know, those things are all needed, but I'm not sure about a splash park. I would support a fire truck well over a splash park, but it'd be nice if it was out in the meeting or out in the public more. It seems like it's being hidden. Some people are saying, well, what do you mean there's $5 million coming? Well, no, it's 5.8 million coming to the town. It's all, you know, once the government gave us the money, then it all went undercover. And I don't think that's the right thing for the town to do. It'd be great if it was out in the public. I get it that we can go to a Board of Selectmen meeting and have some public comment. But I feel these decisions have been made already, and I don't think it's the right process.
Well, New Milford, they have special town meetings for their projects, and it does seem it's not like they're doing anything nefarious. They
Not at
are
all.
totally within their rights to do it
Not
this
at all.
way. It just seems like if you're going COVID and you have the senior center department head and public works and the economic development, what about social services? I mean, if we're going COVID, social services, you think, or it just doesn't make sense, or the health department. So it doesn't make sense to me who comprises that committee. But, you know, it's not our job to make any decisions about it. But I think that we would be within our rights. So I'll put this out to you, to draft a request to the first selectman to consider appointing someone from the Board of Finance to that committee. Would,
I would think that'd be a great idea.
well, we can make a motion and see if people.
I don't
want
think a motion's gonna make it. They're only gonna do what they wanna do.
No, about the draft letter. I can't be
Oh,
writing
oh, well,
letters
just-
on your
Well,
behalf.
before we make a motion, I mean, since we're discussing.
We're
it,
discussing.
Don't you as the chair have the ability to act or write the letter, and make that request? Or is
I-
it something that we have to vote on as a board that?
Well, what I can do is bring the request next time. I think that it's better to vote on that on our behalf. I can
Sure.
write the letter. Otherwise, it's just Cynthia McCorkindale crabbing about something. Like, it would be good to have that
Okay.
unanimity.
Can we go backwards a little bit? We have Brad. Brad chairs that committee.
Yes, he does.
Brad, would you enlighten us and tell us, number one, how the members of the committee were picked? And as the chair, tell me or tell us how the thought process on how the 5.8 million should be spent.
Sure. So the committee was appointed by Matt Knickerbocker. Since the last meeting with all the stuff going on with the fire department request, he has added Tom Galliford to the committee.
Good.
The committee's trying to do twofold. One, take care of things that have been longstanding on the capital project list. So you're talking about the front hallway, the locker rooms, the elevators have been on there. Some of the senior center bathrooms, a longstanding issue for her. You have items like the ventilation in the cafeteria came out of COVID, but it probably should have been done a long time ago anyway. Health department filing system, so we're trying to take care of some things that have been longstanding capital issues that haven't gotten done. And then I'll talk about I know it's referred to as the splash park, and that's probably my fault because I've called it that. It's really on our Arpa committee as Parloa Park improvements. So one of the things we talked about as a committee is doing like a community project. So at the end of the day, when somebody asks, how did we spend this $5.8 million? What did we give the people of Bethel? We wanted something to show for it. And improving Parloa Park to us was a big deal because that park, I don't think, other than $30,000 worth of playground equipment a couple years ago, hasn't been touched in years. I remember growing up in Bethel, those bathrooms were not used very well because they were gross. And so I think that was important to us. We liked the fact that it was walkable from downtown. And one of the big things they talked about, the guidelines from the Fed, was making improvements to some of your harder hit communities in town. And they talked about outdoor recreation and stuff like that. So that's why we picked Parloa. It was studied as part of the park and recreation needs plan that was done 3 or 4 years ago. And sorry, I don't have much of a voice. And our plan with that is once the Parloa Park plan is done by SLR, I think is the vendor, they're going to present to the Park and Rec Commission. Then the Park and Rec Commission is going to hold public meetings to get feedback on what people want to see, what they like about the plan, what they don't like about the plan, before any of that goes to the Board of Selectmen for approval of money. And one of the things that SLR is supposed to be doing is putting together bid documents. So it's on our plan list because we needed to submit to the feds a plan list. It's all up in the air based on what the public comes back and says from those public meetings, what the bids come in at, you know, so it's,
What are the public meetings?
They haven't been set yet.
Oh.
they haven't been set yet
Public
because we don't,
hearings?
the plan's not done yet. So my plan all along was to make the Park and Rec Commission holds normal meetings. Set up one of their normal meetings, advertise however we want to get it out there, that this is one of the things they're going to discuss, and put it in the GP room so that the public can really come out and let it know and have a presentation done by the company doing the plan.
You realize that that's an information session. It's
No,
not
a
a public hearing.
They're gonna- he just
No,
said
it's
they're gonna
actually
get
not.
He just said, he goes, they're gonna take feedback from the people
That-
that are there.
It's a
Okay, so
technical thing. It's not.
public hearing is a
Public
technical
hearing.
term. So yes, it's a public meeting.
It's an information meeting. That's what they call it.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
saying.
so
It's not an official town. public
And Brad,
hearing.
in their presentation, is the cost to the town, how many employees, how much is it gonna cost for the water and the water to be sent to Danbury? Because that's obviously city water down there. How many employees for cleaning, you know, the real cost, is that gonna be part of their presentation?
I don't know if it's gonna be as part of their initial plan, but that is the questions I have once we have plans, is what's the operating cost of it? Obviously, this money, we don't want to create huge holes in our budget. It's one of the big reasons that as chairman of the ARPA committee, and the Board of Selectmen can do whatever they want, there's no hiring of new employees on this list. I don't want to create a fiscal cliff that, all right, yeah, we could pay for this person for 3 years, and then year 4, it just has to be part of the budget. I didn't think that was fair. So that's why it's mostly capital projects and the small business assistance program. But everything else is a capital item on here, I believe.
But
Yeah.
Brad, you understand that the lack of agenda and minutes doesn't give the public any opportunity to even know this much. It just doesn't.
I know, but it
And-
has been presented to the Board of Selectmen a number of times. And it's been on their agenda.
Okay, the other part of it, and this is something that, and this is what happens in my mind, it seems like things kind of dovetail into each other, where somebody is paying for, donating, privately funding the turf field, but then on the second phase, we have $800,000 to light the free turf field. So
Right.
these are the things that happen that are just woven in. Yes, ma'am?
I'm not disagreeing with you, so don't take this
Well,
as
I'm not
a
gonna punch you or anything.
right, so I'm not disagreeing with you, I just don't see where this fits into why it's such a discussion with Board of Finance. This is clearly a personal issue that you are having with the process.
Yeah,
I
the
just,
process.
right, but we can't change the process, so
right.
you,
We
right, so I
can,
just.
if we can request something. We don't
I
have
would
authority to
honestly,
do
I believe
anything.
there's a lot of things that as Board of Finance that we should be doing, like, I believe we had discussed in previous meetings, a fund balance policy, putting together a funds balance policy. I believe, you know, this is my first year through this, but I'm sure there are plenty of other things that we need to be discussing for budgets, you know, taking a look, maybe at capital non-reoccurring, that this just, my personal opinion.
Don't worry about
just
the
does not-
5.8 million, don't even have
I'm
an
not
interest.
saying, well, no, but there's a
It's just for
process,
discussion.
clearly
I
a
was real- I
process
was-
that's in place
Mhm.
that came from even our town attorney that just said, you know, there, I mean, Brad
Tough luck,
gave
we'll spend it
us.
the way we want to spend it, right? And you're
I
okay with
just,
that?
no, I'm not, I just
Well,
said that was,
This
this
is
isn't
20 minutes spent
personal.
on, it's not personal for me, it's personal on behalf of people who talk to me about it. It's on the taxpayers.
Well, then you
That's
send
what-
them, to the Board of Selectmen, you send them, I
Right,
don't
they-
know
I
why,
might
I
plan-
just feel like the things that it is
I hear
that
you.
we need to do are much, we're beating a dead horse
Well,
here.
let me try, can I
But
try
that's
this
just
way?
not-
I just want to
Can I
say
try
one
to-
thing, that
Go
my
ahead.
plan was to go to the Board of Selectmen. They haven't had a regular meeting since Matt came back, and I thought this was a timely issue. Now, whether you agree with the premise of it or not, it's simply a discussion in 20 minutes. I mean, we have X amount of months before the budget. We're gonna get the fund balance policy, everything's gonna happen. I mean, if you have a list of things and you want to put things on the agenda, you just have to ask. So,
Can I talk to this?
yes, of course.
So, Bobby Joe, this might be you directly. This is my opinion. So So through the pandemic, the government spent a lot of money and they pushed a lot of cash into the small communities. As a Board of Finance member, I think this is very important for us to talk about because it's $5.8 million that is supposed to be spent on the community to plug holes in different things that are in town. Us as a Board of Finance member, we have to sit here and listen to the different boards and commissions saying, I need this, this, and this. So, you know, I want to tell you a quick story. I had a guy come up, I was all excited, I was going to save money and I was going to put insulation in my roof, right? The guy comes out of the attic and I'm all excited, he thinks he can give me a bid, right? He says, you're nuts to put insulation in your attic, you ought to get a roof, you really need that. So to Nick's point, it would be great to have a water park, but it might be important to have a fire truck for the community, especially if it's American Rescue money. So that's where I think it's relevant to talk about how a committee of 7 and how this conversation started is hopefully one of us could be considered to be on that committee to have one leg in and talk about it so that we know where the money's being spent. If I think there's 5.8 million and I know a fire department's coming, we got to spend the money before 2024. I would hope that people smarter than I would say, boy, we better buy that fire truck before we buy the water park. So I think that's where this conversation is relevant at this table tonight.
So before we continue with that discussion, I'm just wondering, has anybody checked to see if we can use the ARPA funds to buy a fire truck?
If we could buy a splash truck, I would just,
Well, that is more in the realm of
The ARPA
state.
funds
Jillian,
Actually,
I
the
can tell
ARPA funds
you.
are actually earmarked for certain types of things. So maybe Brad can tell us, can we buy a fire truck with ARPA funds, Brad?
I believe you can. I think there's like 4 main categories: economic development, community development, emergency operations, and infrastructure upgrades. I would assume under emergency operations, you could probably buy a fire truck.
Thank you.
I can also tell you, Delene, that when we approved the 400,000 for the handheld radios for the fire department, and Nick and I both remember, we had a gentleman's agreement that was going to be looked into to be paid for with ARPA funds. We have no authority, but we were promised that it would be looked into because that is also a safety emergency issue. And it's very nebulous how it was discussed or what was decided because they have no minutes or agenda. So
Who, I'm sorry, Cynthia, who was your gentleman's agreement with?
Brad and Mr. Knickerbocker.
yeah.
Yeah, and as an ARPA committee, we did discuss it, and we didn't figure we had our year 1 plan. We didn't have prices on stuff yet, so we didn't want to veer off our year 1 plan. It's not something we could have allotted year 2 money for. And depending on bids and stuff, it may be something we would look at eventually. So we did talk about it as an ARPA committee. If Matt didn't want to bring it up to the Board of Selectmen, he didn't want to bring, and maybe he did have conversations and there wasn't a taste to it. I'm not at every Board of Selectmen meeting.
Right, well, hence the hullabaloo, because I feel like in some ways I'm accused of bringing these things up and implying that there's nefarious goings on. And all I'm saying is it just doesn't look good. I mean, it's a transparency issue and also representational issue. So
Cynthia, did you talk to Nat about this? Have you had a conversation with him about it?
yes. And as I said, I was going to bring it up just formally as myself to the Board of Selectmen, but they have not had a regular meeting. And this keeps changing and things are getting approved. And I felt it was a timely issue just to discuss.
So let me.
And that's
weigh in
what we're
if I could,
doing.
Madam Chair. I have no problem discussing this, and here's why. Board of Finance, I mean, we're kind of in unfamiliar territory in the sense that our charter is very clear that unless the town has a piece of this, like $50,000 or whatever more, that we don't have a say, right? At the same time, we are a check and balance against everything else in the process, and I don't think anybody expects, $5.8 million coming in. So having the discussion is important because all over the state, there's issues with ARPA money, right? Somebody paid for a marching band with ARPA money and got in trouble. West Haven, the mayor is going to get sacked because of the way they handle the process.
Somebody went to Foxwoods.
So it's not, somebody used casino chips or whatever.
Yeah,
So it's not a problem having the conversation. So with you on that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're going to have to really come to grips with the fact we don't have a lot of say over it. So if transparency is the issue, then I think what we have to do is if we're going to do anything as a Board of Finance, it's going to be some sort of non-binding resolution to tell them to do the public hearings the right way, or, I don't know that we can say, oh, put us on the committee.
No, that would be a
Well,
request.
Or a
That's a
question. But I
request.
guess I'm saying also could be something to do a non-binding resolution to say, listen, we want to make sure that you're doing this transparent. We want to make sure as Board of Finance that you're doing a public hearing, whether it's Park and Rec, and how that goes.
Yeah,
Like,
and
we
if
can
that
make
it's
that
an
suggestion.
official public hearing, not an informational
Fair enough.
session is like when the charrette came in for the transit development and everybody drew their dreams on a,
Yeah.
tablecloth.
I guess I'm saying from my perspective, transparency never hurts anybody,
Never.
right? Sunlight's the best disinfectant, we always say.
That's what they said.
But I don't know, for me, about putting somebody on there from the Board of Finance
Right.
is a little bit more of an overreach, or like, it's different, that's control.
Well, what
But
about
that's how I
thinking
feel about
that
it, and I'm really good discussing it, I think it's important.
But
That's-
the fact that maybe if they had agendas and public meetings that had minutes, that would to me be a
Right.
huge
Sure.
thing. Is there any chance of that, Brad?
Since it's an ad hoc committee, I don't know if,
Well, they're not required. See, there's nothing
yeah,
legal or required about what we're talking about. It's just visibility. And the fact that it's $5.8 million. And I think a lot of towns are getting into this problem because, they're very flexible in how you can apply it. And it shifts and changes. And you're making a case for the splash park where people are gonna wash the COVID away with the splashing. I don't know. Yes.
A question for Brad. Brad, so I understand that the Park and Rec is going to be in the GP room and have an informational meeting, but is there any formal presentation to the town that your committee gives a report to and says, hey, how do you like how we're spending all this money? Or this is in a
no,
vacuum?
it's, it's presented to the Board of Selectmen. We were doing monthly updates. I was doing monthly updates to the Board of Selectmen. There hasn't been a lot to report lately because we've been trying to get the front hall done. And we've had a couple agenda items with the Board of Selectmen on the front hall. So that's been the paramount thing right now. So lately we've just been doing it as needed whenever the ARPA committee has something to bring to the Board of Selectmen, or if the Board of Selectmen doesn't need the ARPA committee at all. They can actually just meet and approve the ARPA money without us. But I do need to get back to presenting them monthly. It's just been busy. I think budget season kind of derailed some of that because we weren't having regular meetings as much.
Okay,
So.
and I appreciate your explanation how the committee had come to putting a portion of that money to Park and Rec, right? So downtown, more needy people, a community park, walkability.
Yeah.
If we all agree in affordable housing and we want affordable housing where town services is, that's certainly downtown. So, it seems believable what you're saying. I just wanted to hear that there's a process that we're thinking about the needs of emergency services and a fire truck, and we put it on the scale and we weigh it up and say, all right, the park gets it, I just want to know there's a process, and I believe what you're saying that there is.
Yeah, we do. We talk about those things. So yeah, I think the town could use this ARPA funds to do some good for the community with a Parloa update. And I think this town can afford to do fire trucks too, whether it's from fund balance or CNR or from phase 2 of ARPA. I do think there's a balance in there. And I think that's why the ARPA committee itself has tried to take some of the items from the capital plan list that have been long outstanding to try to clean up some of that, to free up capital money for other projects as well. We have had those discussions as an ARPA committee, trying to balance out a shining light for the community of what came from this 5.8 million, which came from COVID, and also taking care of things that need to be done. Like a lot of the front hall, the locker rooms, the elevators, a lot of that stuff is because town hall is an emergency shelter. That's one of the things that we really focused on to upgrade out of COVID. It's not just what happens during a pandemic. What happens when there's a town-wide emergency, whether it's a microburst or just a blizzard and people are out of power, we open up a shelter at town hall. So what can we do to improve our town hall shelter? And we spent a lot of time talking about that, and that's where we allocated about $1 million of the first year plan to the emergency shelter, between the front hall, the locker rooms, the elevators, the cafeteria, the ventilation in the cafeteria, municipal center gym air conditioning, so we did have a lot of those discussions of what we feel is the best use to provide to the Board of Selectmen, and then they could do with that whatever they want.
I think some of the mystery would be taken out of the ad hoc committee if it was an open meeting like in this room, and anybody that was passionate enough to make it to that whatever scheduled meeting could hear the committee talk and their viewpoints. I think it would be easier for people like me to swallow that, because there would be reason behind the print.
Yeah, I understand, John, what you're saying. And that's why when we initially voted on our first, well, we didn't vote. It's an ad hoc, an informal vote. We presented to the Board of Selectmen, and that's what we did. We ran down through this list and why these items are on this list. So as a member of that committee, I feel like we're doing that through the Board of Selectmen minutes. I know from Cynthia's standpoint, and I think your standpoint, if there was an ARPA minutes that you can go out and read, you'd have that, and then the Board of Selectmen, and it'd be cleaner from that standpoint. One of the things that I think that I want to talk to Matt about is I want to put on the town website, even if it's just a web page that's just all about ARPA, that shows what has been out there, what's been approved.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that I appreciate Cynthia saying that she doesn't think we're doing anything nefarious, but I do think we could do a better job putting out the information that we have done, and so people would better understand it.
Well, Brad, what I'm gonna do is I will send you some links of some town sites where they have, just to show you what they're doing, that they have lists and they have, certain things that you can just look into, and it would just make it more visible.
Yeah, and I know the Board of Education has on their website what they've used their ESSER funds, which is their ARPA funds on.
And they uploaded that when I asked them for the list of what they use the ESSER funds for.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were intentionally keeping it, but I asked for it and she put it up, to her credit, So and that was a lot of stuff. They had really planned that out. So, all right, so I don't think there's anything to be done here. I think that, do you think you're going to be presenting this once a month to the Board of Selectmen?
And we just look for the agenda.
And then we can go to the Board of Selectmen meeting?
Yeah, that was always my
haven't been.
plan. And we had been in the fall, and then
Right.
the budget hit, and that kind of took precedent, and we got to get back into that.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, thanks for the discussion, minus the sexy voice.
Well, sorry. And I'm sorry that I'm not there to present my comptroller report, if you still want to hear it in person, but I'm not currently allowed to leave the house.
COVID.
And you have COVID.
I'm not allowed to say. I don't want to violate any of my rights.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, your HIPAA.
You're not talking to
right.
your doctor.
Yeah, right. Privacy policy. All right, next, do you have a motion to accept the controller's report or discuss it or?
I would like
present
him to make his presentation, then I would make a motion if it's decent.
I don't know what to do anymore. Go ahead, Brad.
You're just going to want to hear me talk more. I got you. So just to give you an update of where we're at, revenues we're looking really solid on. The tax collections over 98%. It's right where we were last year at this time. So we're really happy with that. We do anticipate more money coming in from that. Total tax revenue right now is at 99%. Obviously, we're really happy with that. The one thing I want to point out in revenue that looks out of whack is when you get down to the LoSIP money. The budget calls for 869, 880. We have to request it from the state. So we're just waiting for Bob Dibble to finish all his paving so that we can submit the request all at once. So whether we do the 750 or the whole 869, 880, we'll request that all at once just to draw that down. It didn't make sense to draw it down in pieces. You also see that the fund balance transfer in is zero. That's just an accounting thing. It's just a journal entry at year end. So revenue looks really good. You will note that Park and Rec made a big jump. It's because camp opened up. So they're currently at 442 of the 520 that was budgeted. I anticipate that they will get to the full 520 once they get more of the camp revenue in. Conveyance is good. Expenses. The only concern I have in expenses is utilities. And I think we talked about it either a month or two ago. It's what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. The town normally locks up. I'm just going to reiterate this because it's a big deal for us right now. Our natural gas, diesel, and gasoline contract in January, which has always been a really good time for us. It was not a good time this year, so we are on market rate. I've spoken to 4 or 5 different vendors that do contracts on this, and they give us prices and they say you do not want to lock up now. So we are in, that one's making me worried. Right now, we still have some room. I'm concerned how that comes out at year end, and I'm hoping that we have savings in other departments to compensate for that.
What's the differential between what you were paying and what the market?
We were paying $1.90-ish a gallon for diesel and gasoline. So
You're paying market now?
And what are you paying
Yeah.
now?
it depends. I think the last time we ordered gas, it was like, I don't think it was at $4. It might have been like $3.75. I know the state waived some of the taxes, not all the taxes. All the taxes are always waived for us. So the state doing that didn't help us at all. You know, as a municipality, we don't pay tax anyway. We are just waiting for the right time to try to lock up some of our gas and diesel, and we are monitoring it literally weekly, daily sometimes. It's amazing. You watch the price of the per barrel, and it drops, and you go out, all right, well, let's see what the rates are, and it doesn't drop because they're looking at 12 months out. So we're on top of it. Horrible timing for us. You know, in hindsight, we should have locked up in January because before Russia invaded Ukraine, but we thought it was going to get better and it's gotten worse. So, you know, but we talked a lot about transparency tonight. So being transparent, I'm worried about it. You know, I do think we will have savings elsewhere, whether it's in employee benefits or contingency to make up some of it. And we will see where the year comes out. So the only other thing that looks out of whack is town insurance looks like it's over. It's because we pay it quarterly at the beginning of the quarter, and at year end, we do an allocation of workers' comp and liability and property insurance to water and sewer. So once that comes in, it'll actually be under a little bit.
I would make a motion that we accept Brad's report.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go get some hot tea. Oh, you put it up on you. All right, I think that's it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Bob, you did talk a little bit. I appreciate that.
Speak only when I say